Hello, and welcome to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. Here at the Freedom Challenge, we strive to do good by helping enslaved women and children to do more than you ever thought physically possible, and to do it together by connecting women with a heart for a hurting world. We hope you enjoy your time being informed and encouraged with host Tracy Doherty and our amazing guests. So let's get ready and join Tracy for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. I am your host and the director of the Freedom Challenge, Tracy Doherty. The Freedom Challenge is a movement of passionate women who participate in physical challenges while testing their limits and raising funds and awareness that disrupt the cycles of oppression and poverty that can lead to human trafficking. Today, I want to tell you about a freedom sister and then introduce you to this wonderful woman who is sitting here with us and connect the dots of their relationship and the value of what we're going to be hearing today. So some of you may know and may be doing a happy dance as you listen to this. Some of you may not know Connie, but Connie is a longtime freedom sister. She has been in and out of leadership and challenges for so many years. And one of the things that she told me, I think we may have been in Peru, shout out Connie and Peru, was that her children had given her a stone to take on all of these challenges. And the stone really represented and reminded her of how we can just cast what seems small to us, a stone in a pond, but the ripples it makes are long lasting. And so ever since I've known Connie, she's carried her stone, she pulls it out, she does her challenges, and it reminds her of the deep value of her influence, of the way that she is turning toward this issue and how it impacts far outside of herself. So Connie, I've always thought if I would remember, I would probably bring my stone with me. I have not yet so far, but I want to introduce you to what I would say is a ripple of Connie's stone. Today, we're going to talk with Anne, and in just a minute, she's going to introduce herself. But Connie and a handful of friends went to Scotland, which had been in her heart for a long time. This handful of women raised funds and awareness. This was actually a very challenging challenge. And along the way, she invited her friend from Scotland to bring her friends together to cast their stone to make a ripple. And guess what? Anne is out there now from that time and creating one of her own. So I want to hear more about this. Welcome, Anne. Introduce yourself and tell us how you got here.
Hi, I'm Anne. I'm from Edinburgh in Scotland, and I've known Connie for about 23 years. She came over to work with Navigators just for a year, 23 years ago, and she happened to have children at my children's primary school, and her son was ages with my son. They were about 6 years old at the time. And I got to know Connie. Somebody said, look out for this lady. She's here for a year, and you'll maybe get to know her from the school playground. So that first morning I met her. We walked along the canal because I lived along a canal, about 10 minutes walk to the school. So afterwards I invited her back for coffee. And every day for that year, pretty much, we kind of walked along the canal to pick the kids up from school, and got to know her really well in that year. And then that was the end of her Scotland time, and she went back to America. But I always kept in touch with her, and and then she was telling me that she's always had a heart for Scotland and always I was aware she was doing these freedom challenges over the years, and she had a real burning desire to do one in Scotland. So she asked me if I would host an awareness evening, to tell them about their trip up to some very high mountains in the islands of Scotland, very high, quite tough mountains to climb, which I wasn't remotely inclined to climb myself, but I said I would host the awareness evening. And so she had eight ladies from America and Canada came over and I had about 20 friends from varying churches, not only just my own church, listening to them all talking. And yeah, we were just really challenged by it. And there's quite an emotional evening because I had no real idea about sex trafficking or anything like that. And yeah, just really challenged. And at the end of it, a few of the ladies said, "Anne, we need to do something." And then I thought, well, I guess that's me then, seeing as I organised the evening. So that's how it started. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm listening to this and I'm thinking to what you said. As long as I've known Connie, which is probably getting on 10 years now, one of the first things she said to me was this was such a desire to do this challenge with a handful of friends. And so God had planted it in her heart all that time ago in relationship with you. And then all of these years, there's this fullness of time. But something a little different about you, and we'll get into this in a little bit, is you heard this, the seed was planted, and you just went for it. But first, I want you to tell us what you actually went for, what happened, what did you organize, and then we're going to kind of dig into, wow, you went from I heard something, my heart was moved, and I jumped in with both feet. Let's start with what you did.
Actually, the oldest lady, Fiona, and she's in her 80s, early 80s, and she said, "And we need to do something." And I says, "Well, what do you reckon? What should we do?" And she was talking about walking around the city limits, which is about 40 miles. And I thought, oh gosh, that's quite a long way. I'm not sure I could make 40 miles. And then so we kind of brainstormed, the two of us, and we talked about doing the river that runs through Edinburgh. She's 13 miles either way. And I just thought, oh, that would be good. And I always walked part of that canal with Connie 23 years ago. So I thought, why don't we do the canal? And plus canals are flat. So that was an added incentive. And yeah, so Fiona says, yeah, let's do it. I kind of knew if I didn't do it straight away, I wouldn't do it. I'm a bit of manana. And so that's right why the iron's hot, or I won't do it. Plus, the weather would change, and because it's not known for its good weather in Scotland, so I thought, right, let's do it and put a couple of dates on, and I think about 8 could do this one date on a Friday, and so that's what we went with. So it was like, I think it was about 5 weeks, 6 weeks from the evening meeting to us doing the challenge, something like that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure how
you
much.
rallied quickly. First of all, 28 miles. That is significant. I mean, that's more than a marathon. So unbelievable. In 5 weeks. And how many ladies? I want to, I mean, it's pretty impressive how many ladies that were gathered, both for prayer and for walking, and the generational piece. And not to mention the fact that you raised a significant amount of money that's going to go directly toward these amazing ministries and projects that are fighting this trafficking issue.
So at first it was like 8, and I thought, oh, well, 8 would be nice. And then just gradually, it just happened, the Lord was gracious in that Fiona, who's the 82-year-old, was straight on to um, contacting people at the church. And the guy who runs the prayer meeting, which was the next night, said, oh, I've got a slot in the prayer meeting. Why don't the two of you come up and talk about it? So, wow. Did not expect the church to get behind me. So we went up, the two of us, and we did a little double act. And on the Sunday, actually, when we were kind of thinking about this, I happened to be speaking to it was a minister, and I was asking him how his father was. He says, my dad's 91. He says, oh, yeah, he keeps very well. He said, over the Easter weekend, he walked 100 miles in 3 days. And I was like, what, you're kidding me? He walked 33 miles a day. And then I just thought, well, if I'm not going to be beaten by a 91-year-old, so yeah, we can do that, definitely. So I told Fiona, so she was like, we can do that. So both went up to the prayer meeting the next day, and I actually sat next to the minister's wife, and she says, "Count me in," and then just everybody kind of like quite a lot of people, about 20, wanted to get involved. Some said they couldn't do it all, and so I says, "Well, as long as we all end together, we can join at various points, but we'll end at the wheel together." And so it was just lovely. So of one family, there was three generations. So the youngest that did the walk was 19, and Fiona was the oldest. But three generations, granddaughter, grandma, and mum, which was lovely. Yeah, and a few joined in the middle, and then a few who couldn't actually make the day or couldn't come out as far as Falkirk to do it. They did their own little 6 mile walk after work or something, and that was just really lovely that they 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 were walking with us in spirit, and they did a bit of the water of relief, which we had thought about doing. So yeah, that was special.
You rallied over 20 women, ages 19 to 82, and you raised 10,000 pounds, which is unbelievable. So, probably and counting. I think it's
Yeah, I'm
pretty
not sure what
close
the
to
final
that.
tally is yet. We've yet to
Yeah.
hear, but I
But
think we'll be over
it
that. Yeah.
it's significant. That was your goal. And so I just want to say, well done. You got the vision, you ran with it, you mobilized women to pray. There's a photo of a beautiful group of women that prayed throughout the day for you, for this issue. And you had people in their journey of faith, people who were Jesus followers, and a whole mix of all of those kinds of people, different backgrounds, which is makes for a really fun day. What did you learn about God through all of this as you just think about all the different pieces? What did you learn about his character?
Um, well, just to push the door, and God will provide. Like the next day, like it was just speaking about the 91-year-old, and thinking, well, I could do that. And just how God just had these little conversations. And the next day, I was given a Bible verse, and I was like, oh wow, that was just perfect, and a motivation. Um, and in my Bible reading the next day, I was reading about Catherine Booth. I don't know if you've heard of the Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Christian organisation, and they help the vulnerable and oppressed in Britain, and it was set up in the 1800s. And I was just reading; it was in my quiet time, and it was pretty much the next day as well. I was reading about Catherine Booth. Her husband William Booth founded the Salvation Army, and she said this: "To better the future, we must disturb the present." And
Mm.
it just really spoke to me. I thought my present has been very undisturbed for the last few years. My mum died of Alzheimer's a few years, well, 3 years ago. It was the same year as the Queen died, and I'd done a lot of care for her over the years, and it'd been quite hard work. And then for the last few years, I'd just been quite settled, and just been told, "Come on, disturb yourself, Anne." I was starting to wind down with work. I'd stopped nursing, and I just thought I was doing my hobbies, my golf and my tennis, and yeah, and I just thought, yeah, you need to disturb yourself a wee bit. So I was challenged by that, and reading all about the Salvation Army. And Salvation Army, one of the number one responders for trafficking down in Kent, in the south coast of England. So it's just all these little things I was hearing, just how the Lord just spoke and gently prompted, and then the people that wanted to join, and they were just so enthusiastic. And just how, God doesn't want us to be on our own. We're built for community, and just having these sisters who were just so enthusiastic. And I said it was like Moses getting his arms lifted up by, what's it, Aaron and Hur when we're going
Mm-hmm.
into battle. And when you're flagging, you're thinking, what on earth have I've got myself into? That I'd get a call from Fiona or Pauline, who'd was the prayer coordinator and really encouraging me, and just felt my arms lifted up again. Right, come on, we can do this. So yeah, God's good. He doesn't leave you to do it on your own.
Mm.
And if you reach out, he'll provide the sisters to do it with you.
He invited you into his heart and you responded.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause it's not me. I'm not. Uh, I never think of myself as a leader at all. My husband's a very strong leader, and I just kind of follow around and support him. So it's a bit of a difference for me to do the leading. So yeah, it doesn't come
Mm.
naturally to me.
Yeah, it sits with me. There's always this piece where God is inviting his people into meaningful work with with him. And there's something pretty remarkable that happens in us when we say yes. And we allow him to disturb us inwardly, as you spoke about. That's
Hmm.
such a compelling thought that sometimes God himself is the one is disrupting our comfort to be challenged to move into something with him. And then he provides, like you just spoke about, the grace and every resource you need to step into that.
It's beautiful, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like it even surprised you to see these little provokings. Oh, Pauline said yes to prayer at the church. Oh, the church opened space for me. Oh, all of these moments of invitation.
Well, I had no idea that the church would get so supportive, but they've been great. I go to a very large city centre church, but I just thought I would be doing it on my own with a few friends. But every week in the bulletin, they would put something about the Freedom Challenge on it, and it's just that was lovely because I really wasn't expecting that, but they totally got behind me.
What motivated you personally? You had this group of women, they all presented more about, understanding human trafficking and how this is present in all parts of the world. Was it the friend who invited you into that? Was it the compassion? You mentioned being a nurse. Like, talk a little bit more about that motivation. Like, what happened in you?
I think it was hearing the stories of the American ladies at that evening. I didn't really know very much about human trafficking at all. Um, and it's again, the Lord suddenly hear all sorts about trafficking after you've like after that evening. Pauline had experience herself of trafficking in Edinburgh, and then just looking into it and being aware that it's a big problem in Edinburgh and Scotland and Britain, which I really didn't know very much about, and especially during the festival. And the festival was actually on when we were doing the walk, which that a lot of trafficking goes on during the festival. People bringing up these girls into Edinburgh. Um, yeah, and I think because it's a bit of a middle class church, we're all very comfortable and just being so thankful for what you've got. Just makes you think, I need to do something. These women have got horrendous lives, and these children, and if you can do something to help them, it's a little bit of effort. Um, but these women are going through struggles every day of their lives. Um, I don't know, you just can't sit. After that evening, you just couldn't sit and not do anything, even if it was just a small bit. I
Yeah.
just not. And just raising awareness, because one of the ladies was telling me that she'd been talking, I think it was Pauline actually, saying that her friend had heard about the challenge through chatting to her about it, and she said she actually spotted something in Edinburgh during the festival, and so she was aware of it. So she straight away contacted the police because she thought she'd seen some trafficking going on,
Mm.
and she probably would never have been aware of that had probably not
Mm-hmm.
talked about the challenge. So
Yeah. You
yeah.
can't unsee it, right? Like there's something about, well, some people choose to unsee it, but you did not. And you were a catalyst for others to become aware, then increases again the ripple of the stone cast. But it's hard to unsee it. And it takes courage to trust that the small that you do will make an impact. I mean, some would say, okay, you're going to go on a walk. How's that impacting anything? But there's something so beautiful about when you're willing to turn toward an issue rather than saying, I'll allow it to be hidden in plain sight and pretend like my comfortable world is what just exists. And that is human of us, right? Something is overwhelming or a issue or a problem. It's really easy for us to just say, I can't solve it, so I won't do anything, instead of leaning in and saying, what is the one thing I could do? And then collectively, what could God do with all of that? And
Mhm.
so when I think about all that happened through you in such a quick succession, the provision God brought, it really speaks to the courage of us being willing to look at something and trust God that He can put something to do meaningful in our hands. And when I think about the long-term effect of the prayer, the women, the funds going to the ministries, I think it will outlast and outlive even some of our knowing and even our lives. And that's pretty significant in God's hands. Would you do it again?
Yeah, probably would. Yeah. Um, a lot of the women have said, and it certainly was for me, it was one of the most amazing days of their lives. So when it's an 8-year-old saying, 82-year-old saying that, it's like, wow. And like it certainly was of mine. Um, yeah, I think if the Lord prompted me, and yeah, I would consider it. Maybe not for a wee while.
Yeah, not for a wee while. Um, but I think what I am reflecting on as I hear you is that the seed that was planted through Connie and through those women in your heart, God planted something in Connie's heart all those years ago when you were tending to your 6-year-old boys together, walking, and the longevity of how He waters what we do with Him, the seed that turns into a little plant that turns into something flourishing. And we're so unaware of that because we're just doing our life. But that's how good God is. He's like, I'm going to water that thing and I'm going to add to it and it's going to flourish. So I just believe that what has happened there in Scotland through your yes, through Connie's yes, through all the women, Fiona and Pauline and all those that joined you, your church, that God is on the move to create something more beautiful than you could imagine, more long lasting than you can imagine, and likely even different than we imagine. And I want to say yes and amen to that. You are always invited to whatever is happening within Freedom Challenge, but the mutual effect in you and your community as you joined with God in His work and what it did in you and then what it did through you is so notable. And that's really what I wanted to highlight on this podcast, Anne, is bringing inspiration to other women who might feel the tap or the nudge or the compulsion or the I'm doing it, that they would respond with a yes. And maybe I didn't even ask you to do this, but if you could just give maybe just a little exhortation for anybody who was maybe in that spot that you sat in, what would you say to them?
Well, I'll maybe read a prayer that it's maybe a bit flowery, but another thing that I came to me that the Lord gave to me, and it was this. So this might prompt something. It's just a wee prayer that I read, and it says, "Disturb me, Lord, when I am well pleased with myself. When I am too well pleased with myself. When my dreams have come true because I have dreamed too little. When I arrive safely because I sailed too close to the shore. Disturb me, Lord, to share more boldly. to venture on wider seas, where storms will show your mastery. Well, losing sight of the land, I shall find the stars. And we certainly found the stars, almost literally, because it took us 11 and a half hours to do it. But yeah, it was just beautiful. And I think I have sailed a bit too close to the shore. Yeah, somebody said to my husband turned 60 last year, and I'm turning 60 this year. And somebody asked him the other day, what are you going to do with the last third of your life? And it made him think, and it made me think as well. I don't want to just waste it. I want to serve him. And maybe it's Freedom Challenge or whatever. I'm not going to sail through getting my handicap lower, which a lot of people do in their retirement. But yeah, push yourselves and sail away from the shore.
Invite the disturbance. I love disturb me, Lord. And that's just beautiful. Maybe we can even link that lovely prayer in the chat of the podcast, because it is something to think about. Disturb me, Lord. And you are a treasure. Thank you for showing up and sharing your story. I hope that there'll be times together where it be travel or a challenge or encouraging you as you move into the next things God has for you, as He disturbs your heart and then invites you into what He has for you uniquely and for the world. Blessings on you, and all of you who are listening. If you're looking to get involved with the Freedom Challenge, you can go to thefreedomchallenge.com. Challenge yourself. All of our 2026 challenges are going to be opening very soon. You can also pray intentionally. Pauline invited her community into prayer, and that was so meaningful. You can give generously. We heard about the goal of 10,000 pounds, and all of those funds are given directly to the ministries and to the organizations that are frontline in this work. What you heard Anne talk about is what we call a My Challenge. And sometimes you can't participate in something we're doing, but you can organize, create, and do your own My Challenge. We're really going to be leaning into that this year. We've seen great success, and there is so much creativity and endless opportunities for you to mobilize your community with what works for you. So until next time, let's continue to do good by helping enslaved women and children do more than you ever thought physically possible. 28 miles, that was huge. And do it together by connecting with other women who have a heart for a hurting world. God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. If you liked what you heard, join the fight to set women and children on a pathway to freedom across the globe. We are a proud ministry of Operation Mobilization USA and encourage you to learn more at thefreedomchallenge.com and omusa.org for how you can get involved. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at the FCUSA, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.